Hello and welcome to my channel, You Are the One, where we talk all things law of assumption. And today we are talking about facts and assumptions, but in particular, how to separate them. And I'm going to explain why that is an important skill to be able to master, because it's going to make manifesting so much easier. And so that's what we're doing. Stick around. My name is Hedley Derenzie. I'm a qualified life coach. I'm also an author, and I'm super passionate about the amazing teachings of the law of assumption as originally taught by the great American mystic Neville Goddard. It is the stories that we tell that create our life. So if you want to change any part of your life, it helps to know how to change the story first. And if you'd like to create the most amazing life, then it really helps to know how to tell the most amazing stories. And that's where these teachings can really help. And that's why I am here. I want to help you to tell the most amazing stories so that you can experience the most amazing reality. If you would like help with this or support with this, I am available for coaching. You'll find those details in the box below this video. I also have a free 21-day Set Yourself Up with the Ultimate Self-Concept course, which is the ultimate story that you want to be telling. You'll find those details below, and I'm on Instagram. You'll find those details below as well. I don't know why I just didn't say that all in one go. Anyway, and you'll find it at my website, youaretheone.com.au. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, today we are talking about facts and assumptions. In particular, how to separate them so you can change them. And by changing them means you can have a different experience. And that's what we're here for. We're not here to live the same thing over and over and over. Thank goodness. And these amazing teachings can help you recreate your reality so that you can have a completely different future to your past. Now, according to the law of assumption, which is a spiritual perspective, consciousness is the one and only reality. Reality that we experience with our five senses is a reflection of what we're doing dominantly in consciousness. That is probably the most powerful and profound principle of these teachings. We have come to assume or believe that reality, that this experience outside of us is what's real, and our imagination or what we're doing in consciousness is just daydreaming. It's just like a waste of time, mostly. And that is just the opposite. And of course, what a brilliant setup. How else are we going to awaken to the fact that we're gods in human form if there was no challenge to overcome, if there was no setup? So, awesome setup. Well done, us. But now that we know that, we can play with this and we can start to create the realities that we want to experience rather than just repeating the old stories of the past. I've spoken about this before, and I'll link this video, Facts, Assumptions and Truth, somewhere. So I would say have a look at that first if you would like, because that will help make this video make sense. But essentially, a fact, which we experience in the external reality, is like a solidification of our assumption. So a fact is just an external event, does not equal truth. It only equals truth if we decide to keep the assumption that created it, and then we play it out over and over and over. That's what creates that's what creates truth. A fact is simply, and this is according to the original definition of the word, it is simply an external event, an occurrence, a condition in our external world. That's it. So if you want to change the facts, then you have to change the assumptions, that is the thoughts and beliefs that we're holding in consciousness long enough for them to solidify into a fact. If you want to change the facts, then you have to change the assumption. And what I see happening, and what I've done myself, is we've become confused between what's a fact and what's an assumption. So what we want to do in order to help have more influence over what we're doing with consciousness is we want to separate assumptions and fact. We will experience a fact, an external event in our reality, and then we will place an assumption over it thinking that that's the fact. And then because we've assumed that that's a fact, then that becomes real for us. And then what often happens if we're not conscious to it is we will just continue to assume that and then create more of that fact. And then before you know it, you've created a truth, which is just a cycle of reoccurrence where we're just playing out the same thing over and over because we don't know that we're actually causing it based on the assumptions that we're holding. I'm going to give you an example. And this was something that happened when I was on a date a while ago. The guy that I was on a date with, a text message came through on his phone and he went to the toilet. Now, that's a simple fact. That's the event that happened. Now, what I did is I placed an assumption over it that he was going to the toilet to respond to the text message, meaning, and then I placed another assumption on it, which was that text message was from another woman, so he's now going to the toilet so that he can text the other woman while he's on a date with me. So what I've done is I have just taken a fact and I have overlaid it with an assumption. In this case, it was a negative assumption. And then what do you think that does? What do you think that does? It creates a state of consciousness that's super unfavorable, right? I mean, thankfully I'm aware of this stuff, so I was able to catch myself out. But back in the day, like that sort of shit I used to do all the time. We're not going to go there because, hey, I've revised a lot of that stuff. But let me tell you, that was something that was such a common thing that I used to do, where there would be a fact and I would overlay it with an assumption, and I'd be in all this shitty state because I've just told myself a story that may or may not be true, doesn't even matter, because I'm the one that decides what's true. But now I've created a state of consciousness that has now been pushed out and is now getting reflected back in my reality as a shitty experience. You're the one that decides what the story you're telling is. You're the one that decides, and this is where your self-concept, I'll do another video on this, because your self-concept will influence the assumptions you land on that relate to the facts that you're experiencing in your 3D reality. What we tend to do is we take a fact, we place a negative assumption over it, so then we have the experience of the quality of the assumption we're placing over the fact. Does that make sense? I'm hoping it does. I'm assuming it does. I'm assuming that this makes sense. So what we want to do is we want to take the facts of our reality, meaning the external events, and we want to just separate them from any assumption that we're making first off the bat. Like, learn to see external events as simply external events. Then what you can do is look at, okay, what are the assumptions that I might be having? It's a good idea to know that the assumption that's causing the fact, but then you get to choose what assumption you're going to make about that fact. So let's say you're on a date with somebody, a text comes through, they excuse themselves to go to the bathroom. What are the assumptions that you could make up about that fact? As an activity, come up with 5 unfavorable ones and 5 favorable ones. Just make them up. Use your imagination. Like, why would that person suddenly go to the bathroom when a text came through on their phone? What are the possibilities? What are the assumptions? What are the stories that could lead to that event? And then you get to pick out of those 10 assumptions, you get to pick out which is the one you're going to land on. And I would say pick one of the favorable ones. I mean, unless you're a masochist and you want to go for the unfavorable ones, but I'm guessing you've probably had enough of those experiences. So learn to distinguish between what is a fact in your external reality and what is the story, what is the assumption that you're placing on that fact, and then learn to distinguish just the fact. We want to just have the fact, and then you get to choose which assumption you're making up about that fact, if you want to make up an assumption at all. Let's say your specific person said they would call, but they didn't call. That's a simple fact. They said they'd call, that's a fact. They didn't call, that's another fact. Now, you get to decide the assumption you are going to place over that fact. And your self-concept, if it's a negative self-concept, if you've got a low quality self-concept running, you will overlay that with a low quality assumption. If you've got a really strong self-concept, you'll be overlaying that with, oh, they're just busy, they'll call me when they're ready, like when they call me when they've got time. If you've got a negative or a low quality self-concept, you'll be like, oh, they don't love me, they don't want me, oh my God, they're gonna break up with me, oh my God, oh my God. Like, you get to choose. You're that powerful. But it is the assumptions that are what causes our experience. So really get skilled at distinguishing between what is a fact, what is an external event, and what are the assumptions you're placing over it. And really ask yourself, is this the fact? Like, is this a fact or is this an assumption? Get clear on being able to separate those two, because then you will have more dominion over being able to overlay your facts with positive and favorable assumptions. And then they will help to define your experience, the experience you have. Like, if you're creating negative assumptions over these facts, you're going to have a negative physical experience. You're going to have a shitty time. But if you place positive assumptions over the facts, then you're going to have a great time. And that is what this is about. This is about having the most amazing lived experience we can possibly imagine for ourselves, and that is actually where it starts. It starts in your imaginations. We're all making it up anyway, so make up the best assumption. These are all like assumptions are just made up. They're just thoughts and beliefs that we're making up. But I will do another video on how your self-concept does impact on the choice of assumptions that we are making, and that is why self-concept is super important. So I hope that helps. If you found that useful, please like, share, and comment. And as always, please remember that you are the amazing, powerful, incredible, magnificent creators of your reality. You are the superstar of your show. You are the producer, the director, the actor, and the writer. I got that mixed up, in your movie. So whatever you assume to be true will be so. So assume the best for you and assume the best for everyone in your movie too, and you will have an amazing life. This is my wish, my vision, and my prayer for you. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I would love to have you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.